Hello, hello. It is the Alpenglow Solder Sesh. It's number 50. Can you believe it? We've done this like 50 times. That's crazy. It doesn't seem like we've done that many, but I guess we have. Hi, I'm Carrie Sundra, and we're going to solder some shit today. It's going to be great. But first, we're going to not solder some shit. So I've been working on a little something, fun with new toys, fun with laser cutters, right? So the idea here, so beautiful, so beautiful. So the idea here is we wanted to put together a kit that actually did not require soldering, and I kind of took a page from old school breadboards. We talk about breadboards all the time. Do I actually? I should have been more prepared. I will have Robin grab a breadboard for me so that I can show it to you. But we talk about breadboards all the time. They're really useful for electronics prototyping. A breadboard is basically it's one of these. This is a solderless breadboard, and it is basically sort of like a little circuit template. So you generally run power down the outsides of it, and on these two outer rails here, all of these holes are connected vertically. So each column is connected to each other, but the columns are separate. So it's even marked with a little plus and a little minus at the top, so that you can put, your positive power on one side and your ground on the other. And that way, it's just really nice. You can easily just jumper over to your circuit, power ground, power ground, power ground, wherever you need it. Same thing on the other side. Then in the middle, in your circuit part, each horizontal row is connected together with a break across the middle. You can see this big channel here. So these 5 little lines are connected together. These 5 little ones are connected together all the way down. Same with the ones on the other side. 2 sides are not connected together. And what that does is it allows you to put like a chip across the middle, so you can have half the legs on one side, half the legs on the other, and have a convenient breakout point so that you can wire up different things to those legs: capacitors, resistors, other parts of the circuit, whatever. Okay, cool. So this is like a modern day solderless breadboard. But the reason that they're called breadboards is that they were pretty much cutting boards at one point in time, wood cutting boards that people would drive nails into and use the nails as posts to commonly wire a bunch of signals together. So they were just like the meeting points for different wires and stuff. And so I kind of wanted to do a take on this old school breadboard design and be able to breadboard just fun little simple circuits. And of course, our simplest circuit is the self-blinking, self-flashing rainbow LED. Love these LEDs. So they have all of the electronics inside that change the color, that control the timing, that make them flash, all of that inside. They're just 2 legs. You give it power. You essentially give it like power and ground, and it goes. It just so happens that these LEDs function really well when directly connected to a CR2032 battery. That's not usually the way you operate LEDs. Usually you want a resistor to limit the current and to also provide like a little room between your power supply and the forward voltage of your LED, so that you don't accidentally like over voltage your LED. But the forward voltage on these guys is like 3 to maybe 3.2 volts. So you can just get away with hooking it up straight up to a CR2032 battery. These guys have a pretty small current limit anyway, maybe like 250 milliamps at absolute tops. So, nothing bad is going to happen. And what that does is it allows us to do some pretty cool, like super simple circuits. And so what we have going on here, show you the back. Oh my God, it's a mess. It's actually not too bad once you see what's going on. So each LED has a red wire and a blue wire. Red is positive, blue is negative or ground. And all of the red wires are going to this screw right there. And then all the blue wires are going to that screw right there. And we have our CR2032 battery right there, our coin cell in this already made and wired battery holder, which is nice because it also has a switch integrated into it. So you can just turn it on and off. And yeah, so we have positive and negative going to our two main posts. And there you go. Our whole circuit is connected with this, star fan out. So I'm gonna make one of those right now today. We're almost ready to sell kits for these. We're actually, I'll talk more about this as I'm making it. We would really love to buy these. These are called wire wrap wires. That's the style of wire it is. It's a solid core 30 gauge. Kynar is the insulating material, which is a little bit of a high temperature insulating material, but it's also very easy to strip. It's like easier than Teflon. It's a little bit thinner than Teflon coated wires. And I would really love to buy those in pre-cut, pre-stripped lengths. Jonard Tools does offer packets of those, and I am trying to buy some directly from them because even the distributors right now just don't have very many packets in stock. So they're a little bit slow getting back to me in email, but I'm about to ping them again, hoping that we can work something out, hoping that they think that this is a cool application that they would like to see in the world, tools for getting people just a little bit of experience with circuits for the first time. So hopefully they will get back to my emails. And if anybody watching has an in with Jonard Tools, let me know. All right. So this is the done one. Let's do a not done one. So this is how it comes pretty much fresh off of the laser cutter after all the tape is peeled. That's another interesting thing for manufacturing. How do you do that easily and well? Because, each of these little circles, when you peel the masking tape off, and by the way, you need masking tape on these, otherwise you get a lot of kind of overspray, overburn from little vaporized wood embers, basically getting sent up into the air and then settling back down on your surface. So you put a layer of masking tape over top of it, so it messes up the masking tape, but doesn't mess up your nice design. But then when you peel the masking tape off, you're left with all of these little holes and stuff. So we've been having fun with trying to efficiently peel masking tape off of laser cut things. And right now we're using either duct tape or Gorilla Tape over the masking tape and then peeling it all off. That seems to be working pretty well. But, it is an extra step, an extra time, materials. So yeah, if you have any hot laser cutting tips on super easy ways to peel off masking tape, let us know too. Okay, so this is it. There are these engraved recesses for each LED, and then there are also two holes in the middle. So we will start off by screwing screws into those two holes. These are just number 2. They're actually sheet metal screws. They could be wood screws, but the sheet metal screws work perfectly fine. And they just screw right in. And I'm just going to screw them in about halfway because we want to leave some room in order to wrap our wires around them. So those just go in like that. And now we'll put our LEDs in. And our LEDs, I might ask you, Robin, to grab me a magazine for this part because I don't have one handy for the next part of flipping it over. So LEDs, of course, are directional. There is a flat spot on the LED sides. I can probably show you that under the microscope view. Let's see. So yeah, you can see right here, the flat side is right there. And I can kind of move it around a little bit more so that you can, see that. So this little flange is all round and flat side is right there. That goes to the flat side. there's actually like a flat side of this little recessed LED spot. Another thing that you can do is you can see that LEDs, when they are fresh and new, their legs are 2 different lengths. The long leg is usually the positive side, the anode. The shorter leg is the negative side, the cathode, which goes towards the flat part. So if you put your long LED away from the flat part, then you know you're good. And those just fit right down there in the recess. And yes, we did go through several iterations on, on the pattern for that, to get the recess and stuff right with the material and stuff. We're using MDF for this, medium density fiberboard. It comes in various qualities and colors and things like that. We happen to have a place local to us called Aura Hardwoods. They are like a central to Northern California chain of wood supply, and they do all sorts of like really cool hardwoods and like hardwood laminates. But they also have some really nice MDF, and yeah, we're super lucky to have them local. Okay, so this is what we needed the magazine for. Oh, look, Hackspace. Somebody cool is on the cover of this one. Ah, that's me. Okay, so it's just handy to have a little help when flipping this over. So we put the magazine on top and then flip it upside down. And that way all the LEDs, all of our 6 LEDs stay in, and then you can just quick kind of go, and there we go. Now they're all right side up. Ah, hello, hello. Oh, some of your first experience. Devon's Workshop says some of their first experiences with electronics are twisting Romex with the wire nut. Yep. So that's like wall wiring, basically 120-volt wiring. And yep, as long as the twists make good contact, it works. So that's when you strip wire. It's generally stranded. You twist the 2 of them together, and then the nut on the inside of those like little plastic nuts is threaded, and it kind of like grips into the strands of the wire and makes like tightens them together, fixes everything in place, and makes a good connection. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work. Then you tug it to make sure that it's making a good connection. If it falls out, then you kind of splay the wires back out and do it again. Cool. Awesome. Oh, Blooming Smoke, thank you. I think it's cute too. Yes, happy Krampus season. Krampus. Being festive. It felt like a Krampus day. Oh, I should also say I'm totally like repping my brand new embedded.fm podcast hoodie, which I really like. I love their old jukebox logo. I think it's super cool. So, and this one has, it's hard to see. It has an IC in the middle, and it has like an LED and resistors and like circuits all around it. So it's extra cool. So yay. Thanks for making good swag, Alicia. All right. So now we have all of our LEDs in here. I'm going to do 2 different things. So we do have a few of these nice pre-stripped, pre-cut wire wrap wire pieces. So I'm going to use those for the red. And what I do, so now you kind of have to remember, okay, which one was positive, which one was negative. The long ones are positive, and the short ones are negative. The long ones are basically yeah, it's hard to say right or left on these. They are all on the same side if you're kind of, looking from the center of the circle out, which we wanted to make it consistent, So yeah, all of them, it starts on the right, and it's basically, it stays that way if I were rotating the snowflake all the way around. And I'm splaying these out just a little bit so that I can have enough room to actually wrap the wire around each other without getting in the way of the other one. You can splay them up or down or out to the side. It doesn't really matter. All right. And so now we're going to do our first wrap. And I think I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more on this, maybe, so that you can see what's going on. Okay, let's see. There we go. So I'm just taking it and I'm taking the wire and I'm putting the insulation basically right up against the leg there. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry. You don't have to do this like right close down to the leg at this point. You can do it up in the air. I think that's a little bit easier to hold it up there right now. So I'm just going to wrap it around this leg 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And now I can push it down the leg. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this towards the middle like that. I don't want it to cross over sort of the center line here. I want to keep it outside of the center line, just so that there's room to do this on the other side without them touching. So bend it down, and then I kind of bend it back at the halfway point to kind of form a staple. And what that does is, you know, if then this wire moves around a bit, it just traps that wire wrap so it doesn't slide right off the leg. And we can even clip the excess at this point. Although if you don't have wire clippers, my other one that's still blinking, it is completely unclipped and it's kind of a hot mess and it still works totally fine. So yes, solid core is, so Devin's workshop says it doesn't matter how small the gauge is, the solid core is always easier to strip. And that, yeah, their big strippers rip off the strands if it's stranded wire. Yeah, the solid core wire, it just also wraps a lot better. Stranded wire tends to not have as much memory as solid core wire does. So stranded wire, you'll like wrap it around something and it'll just like come unwrapped. And so the solid core wire is kind of key for this. And I think it's the best style of wire to use. So I'm just going to the next one. And again, wrapping 3 times. And then down, bend, and then bend back. And sure, we'll clip off the ends as we go. We could also clip off the ends at the end, I guess. Doesn't matter, either one. I think it's easiest to do all of the LED ends first, and you'll kind of see why in a minute when we get to doing the other end. And you don't even have to like push this all the way down. Actually, it's something kind of new that I'm doing. I didn't do that on the first one. You can just kind of leave it wrapped along the leg. That's totally fine, like that. And because, you know, when you do this and bend this little leg back, it just traps it. So it'll stay. It will totally stay. You do want to wrap it like a little bit tightly just so it makes good contact, so it's not intermittent. Although frankly, with the flashing pattern, you know, it is forgiving of mistakes if it is intermittent. That just means it'll keep starting and stopping at the same point. Or starting and stopping like over again, but you won't really be able to tell because all of the LEDs sort of lose synchronicity pretty darn quickly because they're all just a little different. All right. And then we've got a few more. Plans to make the wires with it pre-stripped. Yes. So we really don't want to be, we would rather not be cutting and stripping these wires ourselves here for the kitting. We do want to provide them to you, the customer, all set and ready to go, like these ones here are, because, you know, I wanted to have a kit that didn't require you to already have electronics tools. I wanted something that was super beginner friendly, almost toolless. I mean, the only thing that you need for this is a screwdriver, and I'm willing to say, okay, you have to have a screwdriver for this, but it's, you know, it's just a standard Phillips. I was kind of thinking of ways of trying to, you know, not have a screwdriver for these guys, but it was getting overly complicated. It was like, you know, the simplest way is to just use a screw, you know, I think most people have screwdrivers. You can get them for pretty cheap if you don't. So yeah. So anyway, yes, we want to provide them to you pre-cut, pre-stripped. We would rather buy them that way ourselves as well, and that's what we're in the process of doing. I mentioned that these are pre-cut, pre-stripped. They are made by Jonard Tools, Jonard. You can get them at you can get the pre-cut, pre-stripped lengths at various electronic stores. Okay. Oh, so now what I'm doing, just interrupt myself for a second. So I'm gathering all of these wires now. I've done all six. All six are twisted, the positives. And so now I'm gathering them all together in the middle, the other ends of the wires. And this step takes a second. It, you know, you do have to like gather them all and hold them all at the same time, but it's not that bad. And if you've done your wrapping well, nothing should be coming off at the other end. So it's not too bad of a process here. So yeah, we're in emails right now with Jonard Tools to try to get a whole pile of these cut and stripped. You can buy them in 50 packs right now, but it's they're just not very readily available, even through the usual suspects of electronics distribution. Okay, so now I have them all in my hand here, and you can see I've kind of collected them here so that they can all go to one of these posts, one of these screws. And you can see that they're all they're all pretty much kind of going straight down from their LED and in here. I didn't really do anything super special to make that happen, just gathered them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm not twisting them together first. I'm just grabbing the stripped end, and I'm going to wrap it twice. Well, no, maybe just once around one of the posts. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. You can do it 1.5 times if you want. Cool. And that pretty much just stays, which is kind of neat. And now, so yeah, now you get to see us cutting and stripping. Fun fact, got this cool spool at Apex, the awesome surplus store that we went to after SuperCon this year. So yeah, I was thinking about these kits while I was there, and I was like, these guys have like a wall of shelves of wire. I bet you they have some wire wrap wire in there. And yeah, one of the guys helped me find some. So I have a couple different spools of a couple different colors that I was able to get for pretty cheap, which is kind of nice. So I'm just going to make this, actually, let's see, I can measure this one. I'm using one of our PCB rulers, because why not? Because you can also use them as a ruler as well as a footprint reference. So handy. So these are like slightly over 5 inches, which makes sense. They have 3 inches of insulation coverage, and then like basically like a little over 1 inch of stripped material on each side. So I'll do the same sort of thing. I will cut these at 5 inches. Oh, the reason that this one has an X in it too is I guess there was some cosmetic problem from the board house. So, because I mean, these weren't an actual circuit. Usually you get an X when they do an electrical test and a board fails an electrical test, meaning just that there's like a small short somewhere or something like that. But since these were not electrical tested, I'm assuming that it's some cosmetic flub that they saw that was big enough to make them exit out. But frankly, I don't see the cosmetic flaw. But we just kept those here for ourselves instead of shipping them. All right, so I got 4. I'm gonna do 5 and 6. And so like you can see, like, I mean, obviously if we were going to be doing a lot of these ourselves, we would come up with some jigs and be able to cut several at a time and stuff like that. And Robin and I have been talking about ways of doing that, because we might end up, at least for the first few weeks, maybe doing these ourselves, even though we don't want to. But yeah, we might not have a choice if Jonard doesn't want to deal with us in our comparatively small quantities, right? So these strip super easily. That's the nice part, is that, you know, some wires can be really difficult to strip, like the insulation just really wants to stick to them. Oh no. Of course, right when I say that, I just like accidentally snip it off. But here, we'll probably be able to salvage this one. There we go. So yeah, right until that moment, these had been stripping very nicely. All the test ones did, I swear. I can also try using, sometimes if like the 30 gauge tool is like a little too close, you can get away with using the 28 gauge tool. I swear they were stripping nicer earlier. But yeah, we'll try the 30 gauge for right now. That is the trick with super small wire, is that, you know, you kind of need good strippers, you need consistent wire, or else, especially like solid core wire with thin insulation, you can just wind up cutting through the wire instead of stripping it. Well, now it's going better. It might just be because I was like trying to like look in the camera and not pay attention to my hands enough. But now that I'm actually like paying attention and getting it all lined up, it's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, you can see why we don't want to be doing this ourselves, right? Even if we got pretty efficient at it and made jigs and stuff like that, it's still quite a bit of labor, and we would like to be paid a living wage for our stuff. So yeah, it would be great to buy these already done by somebody who presumably has, you know, bigger, more expensive automatic wire stripping and cutting tools, because that's what they're in the business of providing. So, all right, this is the last one. I might end up recutting that other one. Let's see. Or I might just end up using that for one of the shorter runs. I'm just going to strip a little bit more off that. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think I just wasn't paying good attention on that one and accidentally clipped it. Okay, so now we have all of our blue wires. And we're going to hook all those up. So again, we're just going to do 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3. And the reason you want to get the insulation kind of close, as close as possible to the base of the wire, is so that you don't accidentally short it out. If your insulation is way over there, you know, and you have like bare wire here, then you might accidentally overlap that or something like that with your wire next to it and short it out. In this case, like nothing bad is going to happen because it's super low voltage, super low current, but you know, you want your LEDs to work. You want them to blink. And I'm doing the same thing where I'm just wrapping the remaining leg, and 3 wraps around each one. And then I'm kind of mushing that down, folding it down, folding it back over so that it does that staple thing. When I fold it back over, I am taking care that, you know, these two don't cross. I'm kind of keeping it in line. I'm keeping the fold off to the outer side instead of in towards the other wire. And then we'll cut the excess off. But I think that this is, and also the second wire is even easier to wrap. The second leg of the LED is even easier to wrap than the first leg because the first leg is no longer in the way. But yeah, like I hope that this is something that is, you know, good for like younger kids as well, who might, I mean, it takes a little bit of dexterity to do this, but I honestly think kids will have an even easier time because they have smaller hands. They can grip these tiny wires even better than we can. So yeah, I don't think that you need like a high degree of dexterity. You're not dealing with anything that's hot. I don't have a recommended age for this kit for kids because I don't really have kids. And I mean, kids are highly variable, right? Like some 4-year-olds you can totally give a soldering iron to, and others you definitely could not. Awesome. So there we go. And I'm gonna cut this one off. Did I cut that one off? No, I did not. Haha. All right. I think I cut all the rest of them off though. All right. And now I'm gonna gather all my blue wires. Gather in the blue wires. And I'm kind of getting them sort of lined up as I grab each one. Just, I think it's easier to do that as you're adding each one to the pile rather than trying to equalize them all out afterwards. And there we go. And last one. And I like having that inch of free stripped space there because it just gives you a lot to hang on to and a lot to wrap. Now this red one is like a little bit in the way, so I'm just going to scoot that one over more towards there. Not drop all my blue ones as I'm doing that. Rejigger all these guys here a little bit. All right, there we go. Yeah, this last step might, like a smaller kid might need a little bit of help with, but there we go. Wrapped it all around 1.5 times. You know, I am keeping them all together. I don't want those wires to like splay out and perhaps short on things. But there we go. All of our LEDs are done. All right. Let's see. You could see this being good for kindergarten classes where they make their own ornaments and get to take them home. Yeah. Yeah, totally. That would be super cool. So this last bit we're kind of doing too. So, and we are okay with doing this ourselves. You know, these guys are mass produced and like mass stripped as well. They're stripped to a really short length here. Like you can see it's just, you know, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so is of stripped wire is there. Try to get it. There we go. Now you can see that better. So we are intending on stripping these longer before we send them out. And hopefully I can do that without breaking anything here. I'm going to use the 22 gauge hole. There's a lot of extra length of these. So these are stranded. And so you'll see a little bit, yeah, I think maybe 24 gauge hole. Yeah, there we go. These are stranded and you'll see that they're just not, they don't bind to the LED legs quite as nicely as the solid core ones do. The other cool thing about the LED legs is that they're square in profile. So having those edges there just provides like a little bit of extra grippiness. And, you know, especially to that solid core wire, it'll like kind of bite into those edges a little bit and it just grabs on really nicely. Thank you, man. We have a lot of different pairs of strippers in here in the house. So we could definitely use some different ones to, you know, be doing more of these. It's also harder to strip longer lengths of insulation off at once too, because there's just more friction, right? All right. So the one thing that you kind of have to pay attention to, and we do have some of these that have a black case and have a red and a black wire coming out of them. And we much prefer those because it is very easy then to know which is your positive side and which is your negative. Your positive is red and your negative is black. However, we are not always able to get those. And so we have a lot of these like clear or white ones that have clear wires. And so one wire is actually marked on this. It's going to be probably hard to see on this stream, but you can see it a little bit. But one has sort of this, it's marked with like a little bit of a white ink with dashes in it. And you might think that the dashes would mean negative, but no, that's your positive wire. And we put this in our instructions, and this is why we include a QR code to instructions and everything. Will bad things happen to this circuit if you hook it up backwards? No, it just won't work. You'll just have a sad face. So yeah. So you can always be like, oops, and just turn it around. So these I am wrapping like definitely like 1.5 to 2 times because they just don't bite quite as well as the other ones, as the solid core, but they still work out pretty well. So there we go. And now I'm going to screw these down a little bit more, just a tad. Like if you screw it down too much, you'll just wind up sort of mushing all of your wires out instead of flat. I also might try to find, there might be some specialty screws that have bigger heads. We could also actually provide washers with them. That might help a little bit, keep everything down. But, oh, I need a battery. Do I have any? I feel like I should have some right here, but I think I actually, put them out there. Cool, thank you, Robin. Just grabbing me a battery. And I guess I have one in Krampus too that I would have taken out. Cool. Awesome, thank you. A little CR2032 stash here. We found this nice little 3D printed holder on Thingiverse. Using that. We'll try to put a link to that in the notes. So this, the battery holder, it's pretty simple, but it's also a little different than some of the other ones. You just put the battery straight down into it. The way that this works is that the positive is the top of the battery, but it's also the side of the battery. And the bottom is negative, and the bottom is also recessed. So what's happening here is that this side one on the edge is actually picking up positive, and then this guy is picking up negative. So all you have to do is set it in there, and it doesn't snap in or stay in by itself. It needs the cover to do that. So you just like pop it in and snap the cover down. Why is this not working? Live demos. There we go. And snap the cover down. I feel like my battery is not. Oh, there we go. And you turn it on, and you have beautiful whoop, blinking snowflake. Ta-da! There you go. Now, if you want to kind of clean this up a little bit and make it tidy, it's actually pretty easy. You can just kind of bend these wires to follow the snowflake legs down so that they don't show through. You can also use tape if you want. You can use some tape to tape the wires in place, but they actually, they stay pretty well. If you just kind of bend them with like a little bit of force to keep them to have them like take a shape and keep that shape, So yeah, that already looks a lot better than it just did a few seconds ago. Yay. See, now you can barely see anything sticking out the back. So we're also going to get some ribbon. We were thinking maybe a red velvet ribbon Or maybe if we can get some like super cool, like shiny holographic ribbon, maybe, but I don't know if that exists. So we'll see. We'll make a trip to Michael's and see what we can see. And then, so the battery holder, it's kind of up to you. I mean, our original idea was that the battery holder would sort of be back here in the middle. But once we did the first couple, we realized that we do really need that space for the wires, to just, have a spot for the wires to be. And you wouldn't want to make the wires any shorter because then it would be way harder to handle and gather and manipulate and stuff like that. So there needs to be a little space for the excess wires. You could tape this down there, but then anytime you change the battery, you're going to be like jiggling the wires. So I think what we would recommend is just maybe like tying, like you could zip tie or just use like a smaller piece of string to tie the battery wires into this little hole that's for the ribbon, and just kind of leave it hanging, leave it up at the ribbon. That way you can get to it easily. You can change the battery if you need to, and you're not like messing with the rest of the circuit. And you can, if you're hanging it on a tree, you can hide this in the leaves of your tree or the needles of your tree, I guess. So cool. Awesome. Catching up on comments now. Let's see. Yes, kindergarten or adults who have never touched electronics before, right? Yeah, it's nice because, you can build it entirely with your hands and you don't have to solder, and yet, you have this like cool ornament. Totally. Yes, the short stripping on these guys is more for soldering into a PCB. You don't want a lot of excess sticking out, so that's very convenient for that, but not so convenient for our use, which is doing the wrapping. These battery the battery holders are interesting. The ones with two CR2032s, they kind of do the same thing, but it's more of a top and a bottom orientation. But yeah, they work reasonably well for being so cheap, So yes, the blinking is built into these LEDs. They are just, you can't change the pattern, you can't change the color. They just cycle through rainbow. They have this pattern where they do sort of like slow fading a little bit and then go to fast flashing. Some are different than others. These are like the slow and fast. Some that you buy might be just the slow. Some that you buy might be just the fast. We happen to have like 1,000 of these on hand because that's what we buy LEDs in. The other cool thing about these LEDs, and actually I owe this to Techno Chic, to Natasha, is the first time I had seen so these are these flat topped LEDs. So you can see they have a very rectangular profile to them. They do not have a round dome on the top. They're just completely flat. And the first time I saw them was in her bag kit, where you're sewing these LEDs and you're connecting them with conductive thread. And it just so happens that, like, for this case where you're flipping it upside down and manipulating it, it works really well for that because you have a nice stable surface. And they just, I don't know, they just look kind of cool. Having a clear lens means that you get more like reflection off of the edges of the LEDs. So it almost seems like there are, two LEDs in there, but it's just like the light reflecting. So it's just like a very clean, cool kind of color. We did make one of our legit badges, which was like the first one I did. So I made these and handed them out at SuperCon. It's the Alpenglow Industries Maker Badge of Authenticity. I'm legit, bitch. So I was giving these out, and this is the utter simple version where you just have one LED and the battery holder directly to it. And yeah, we had one of these where we had one of the like frosted domed LEDs, and then I found these. I remember that I had them and found them, and we put this one in, and it looks a lot brighter and snazzier and twinklier. But yeah, it is cool that it's entirely all the electronics, all the blinking and the flashing and the color changing is entirely built into it, and you treat it like a normal LED. It basically has an anode and a cathode, and you just give it power and it goes. Elmer's glue for probably for the battery holder and stuff, or for the just holding the wires down. Yeah, I mean, just holding the wires down, I think that would work pretty well. Elmer's glue can sometimes, it's been a while since I've used it. It can sometimes dry pretty thin, I think. I don't know how well it would stick to this particular insulation, which is, it's not PVC insulation. I think it would work fine with PVC, but this is like very slick insulation that I'm not sure that Elmer's glue would stick to very well, but you could totally try it. Yeah, I wouldn't have any worries about conductivity or anything. Pretty sure Elmer's glue is not conductive. Yeah. Yes, very whimsical. I agree. I like it, and I like how they get out of sync almost immediately, so that you just have this random blinking pattern right off the bat. I think that's fun. And this was the first one. Woohoo! Oh, that one just got rebooted. But yeah, you could see how it starts all kind of in sync, and then eventually they kind of get out of sync. Yeah. I do not know how long these last yet off of one battery. We haven't actually done that test, but we will, and we'll figure that out. Judging from, we use these on our Happy Rain Cloud kits. Not exactly these with the flat, but we use like the frosted version of them. And those last for a very long time, like 20 hours at least. So, I think you'll get pretty long life out of them, but I think you probably, if you have them on for like 8 hours at a time, or if you forget to turn it off and like leave it on overnight, then you might not get as long of life out of it. But it should be pretty good for like, several hours every night after it gets dark. It should last you for several days at least. Yeah. Cool. So the other thing that I was going to do was actually do some soldering. Whoa. It's been a while since we've soldered on the stream. And I felt like I was being a big imposter with calling it the solder session, not actually doing any soldering. And so to keep with the snowflake theme, I thought I'd solder up one of our chilly snow clouds. Our chilly snow cloud uses the blue self-flashing LEDs. Okay, so we have a question. Do they have built-in resistors too? Yes, question mark. I'm not actually sure how they do the current limiting. They might just deliver, they might just have like a current controller on it and just deliver the right amount of current to each LED without a resistor. But we can look at one under the microscope and see if we can see anything, but it's pretty small. I don't think we'll really be able to see much that will tell us, or at least me, anything. They are not like, I can say that some single color LEDs that you get, they actually do have a resistor sort of like soldered on in place of one of the legs. It's not like that. It's like a fully integrated circuit. All right. And I'm going to go over to the microscope and probably change to microscope view in order to do the soldering, because I prefer to solder under a microscope these days because my eyes are not that great. So here, I'll just take this out first. So this is our little chilly snow cloud. Burp. And circuit board. And then we have the QR code on the back, 2 instructions, which I will probably regret not reading. And then these are all the parts in the baggie. So you have, we give you battery, we give you a sticky pin in case you want it to be more wearable. And we give you a magnet in case you want it to be more like a thing that you stick to your fridge or something. And then there is the battery holder, 3 LEDs, and a switch. And it probably would have helped if I turned the soldering iron on earlier, but that's okay. It's pretty fast. And so I am going to switch over to a microscope view. Oh, hey, little guy. Oh my God, I'm so cold. Ah! Sorry, I amuse myself at least. So yes, let's see. You can do this one of 2 ways. You could do the front first with the 3 LEDs there, or you can do the back first that has the battery holder and the switch. We generally do the back first in our instructions because it just, I don't know, is maybe a little easier that way. So let's see. So the first thing is to put the battery holder in, and these, the battery legs are, you can see that they're bent a little bit. And so they just kind of like snap in. And that way, this is nice because it holds itself in place so that you can flip it upside down and it doesn't fall out. So we'll do this one first. This is actually the hardest solder joint on this one, the most difficult one. So this is why this is why we prefer the angry and happy snow clouds for like a very, very first time solderer. Because, and we might actually make a board change to do this a little differently next time. We'll have to kind of figure out what that means in terms of the artwork. But basically, you don't want to bridge between the center of the eyeball here and the outer part of the eye here. And it can be easy-ish for a first-time solderer to do that. So, so that's the only part that requires like a little bit of care. But, you know, I've soldered a lot, so it's not a big deal for me, but that is something that we want to change in our next revision of this kit, is just to make that a little less prone to mistakes. So yeah, there we go. Eyes are soldered. Try to get a few different angles on this so that you can see. And now we'll go to the switch, which is also on the same side. And this one does not hold itself in. It doesn't have those cool bent things. So you do have to, like, you know, you put it in there, and then I just put my finger over top of it, flip it upside down, and then it's fine. It and the battery holder are about the same height, so you can just kind of leave it there, and it's at the right height and all good. The battery holder is the finest pitched component, and this is another thing that we might actually change. This isn't, both of these things are not too difficult for adults, but we taught soldering to a bunch of kids at Maker Faire, Orange County, in September, and so we learned about what kids have issues with versus adults. I'm just gonna make this a little bit clearer for me, and then I'll refocus it for you guys. Oh, that's actually pretty decent. Okay, cool. So yeah, we want to do a few things that maybe make it a little bit more kid friendly. So we might actually use different switches that have a little bit of wider pin spacing, because that would definitely make it easier. You'll notice I'm not actually using flux on this. I would say for beginning solderers, it's always a better idea to use a little bit of flux because things will flow a little nicer. For me, I'm experienced, so the amount of flux that's already in the core of the solder is enough for me, because I have a calibrated knowledge of the timing of everything and when to apply heat and not to overcook it. So yeah. All right, so we're halfway done. Look at that. Now we have LEDs. We do have them labeled here. I'll do it so you can actually read it. How's that sound? So plus is the long one, minus is the short one. There's also, oh no, on this one, yeah, on this one there's not, because of the because we have no no solder mask over these snowflakes, because we wanted the snowflakes to be nice and shiny. That means that we can't put any silkscreen here on the top. So because circuit board houses will generally not put silkscreen over bare copper, because if you were making an actual circuit board, that would typically mean that you accidentally had a label or a part of your part of a part outline going over a pad that you would want to solder to. And the silkscreen, it's actually like epoxy-based ink, so it can actually stick on this, you know, shiny bare copper, bare plated copper, but you don't want that to happen, right? If you have this epoxy ink on a pad that you're trying to solder to, you contaminate the pad. It makes it harder to solder to. You might have to scrape it off before you can solder to it. So board houses, as a matter of course, will subtract the silkscreen layer from the exposed solder mask layer and just get rid of any silkscreen that is over bare copper. So anyway, that is probably more information than you wanted about circuit board manufacturing. All right, so looking at the back again, because I already forgot what was what. So positive is the bottom, negative is the top, and our positive is our long. So the long legs are going on the bottom of the design. So I will put all three of these in at once. You could do a couple things here. You could bend the leads to keep the LEDs in if you want. That's not a terrible idea. Yeah, and sometimes, so LEDs, let's see if I can see this. You can see that there's sort of this, yeah, that flat spot right there. That's a little bit thicker. They are generally not consistent enough and not consistent enough between brands of LEDs to be able to use those to lock LEDs into place. So, you know, we make our holes like a little bit oversized, but sometimes you can get lucky and they'll lock into place that way. But in general, you'll have to put your hand over the LEDs while you flip them upside down so that they don't fall out. And then what we do is we generally find something that's sort of the right size. So like this legitimacy badge, and we just prop up the other side here. I can tell that my LEDs are, there we go. That one's not quite the right size. We have a spool of solder wick, which I helpfully put away. That is usually like the perfect size for this, but that's okay. Let me see if this, solderless breadboard might be a little bit better. There we go. You can also, like, if you have tools for holding circuit boards and stuff like that, you can totally use those, and you can bend the LED legs to keep them in place. I mean, all that is fine. You know, when I'm showing you stuff here, I kind of like to show you how to do it if you don't have specialty tools, because not everybody will. Yeah, that one's a little bit. Yeah, I actually think that this guy was like a little bit better, maybe. I know it's just in between the two things I have, but I think that this will be fine. And so I am going to go ahead and bend them. LED legs are actually rectangular in cross section, and I like bending them, instead of like bending them out like this, out like that, I tend to like to bend them like this, because that's in the direction of the shortest cross section. So that's what I'm just going to go ahead and do here. Bend, 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 Doesn't matter if they touch because we're going to chop them off. Bend, bend. There. All right. And now we're soldering away. You will notice that one side of this is connected to a ground pour. So what that means, I'm going to cut this one right now just to get the legs out of the way. When you're cutting, you always want to grab the end that you're cutting off so it doesn't fly across the room and like poke somebody else in the eye. Yeah, so the ones that have that are connected to the ground pads, and you can tell so you can tell that this negative right here is connected to ground because it has, let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you. It has sort of this spoke, this plus pattern coming off of the pad. You can see one spoke going to the top and two spokes coming out either side of that top minus pad. So those are called thermal reliefs. What you're seeing is like the little bit of darkness around the pad is actually a lack of copper. There's no copper there. And this whole part here and all in here is solid copper. And then you can see there are like these three little spokes that are connecting that copper port to the pad that is exposed and shiny. And I could have used a trace. That's another thing that we might do next time, is just use a trace instead of a ground pour to connect all of the ground. I'm just in the habit of using ground pours from, doing actual real life circuit boards where you want nice ground connections that are low impedance. You don't want any voltage variance on your ground plane because your assumption is that everything connected to ground is connected to the same 0 volt, that there's no voltage difference across your ground plane. So using ground pours is very handy for that. But it does make it a little more difficult to solder to, because it also, ground pours like suck the heat away very, very quickly. Whereas traces, there's just less thermal mass there, so they heat up. They heat up with the pad around it, and so they don't like kind of suck heat away from the pad. And of course, you need heat on the pad in order to solder, in order for your solder to flow. All right. There we go. Oh, look at that little guy. Those are our LEDs. Should we see if I did this? I'm gonna use another battery and I'll change it to here. Hey, how's it going, little guy? All right, moment of truth. Did I mess it up? Hey, I didn't mess it up. It's a little hard to tell in the, because the LEDs always blow out cameras, but they are blue, actually. They are blue self-blinking LEDs. We figured, the blue ones, they were a little more interesting than the white ones. But it went with the chilly burr theme, so cold you're blue. But snipping legs and watching them fly across the room is a source of joy in life. It is! All until somebody loses an eye. You're gonna shoot your eye out. So you've done exposed copper lettering on the TR cowbell sequencer. That board looks cool, by the way. Everybody should have a cowbell sequencer. I don't know, between that and Thea's big honking button, I might have to get into modular synths. But I guess yours is just a sequencer, so it's all included, no extra synth stuff required. But you can get, you can get pretty artistic with PCBs and using the color of the solder mask, the color of the silk screen, and the shininess of the copper pores, like to your advantage to do different things. The Chili Snow Cloud is actually, it's a hard one to take photos of because it is so shiny. It always wants to just like completely reflect. So we're always having to like tilt it to get good photos. But it's also delightful that it's so shiny, it's fun. But yeah, so we might next time, boy, I'm not sure how to do that because we might have to like redo the face a little bit in order to make the inside. Oh, I know what we were doing. We were just going to isolate that's what we're going to do. Yeah, I think that's the better plan. So what we're going to do is what you're seeing here is actually like exposed ground. And so the problem is that the center of these little eyeballs, I'm going to go back to microscope view so you can see it better. So yeah, the shininess is actually an exposed ground plane, and the center of those little eyeballs is your positive 3 volts. And so when you accidentally bridge across, you're shorting out your battery by accident, which because they're CR2032s, it doesn't really hurt them, but not a good habit to be in. So anyway, though, yeah, what we're going to do is disconnect, get a pointy thing. We were going to disconnect this part from ground. And so underneath the solder mask here would actually be a gap in the copper. And so that way it wouldn't matter if you bridged the eyeball over I guess the pupil over to the iris. Yes. Eyeball anatomy. Things you didn't think you'd have to know for your live stream. The hue of the view, it's not really coming across extraordinarily well, I would say. Let's see if it does it here. Yeah, I think it's a little truer in here. It's more of like a very kind of like, it's almost like a more royal ice. It's not what they call ice blue. Ice blue is like, I would say a little more turquoise, but it's more towards the royal blue end of the spectrum. It's actually kind of closer to that spool, but lit up. But yeah, it is a fun blue. Well, it's a fun blue. But yeah. The turquoise ones, you can get them. We have them in surface mount versions for the Foxy Pride kit. We wanted one that was like more cyan. And it is like, it totally depends upon the LED. We have gotten ones, my favorite ones are the ones that we use on the F Unicorn horn. That one is like a very nice cyan color. But those are also pretty expensive. So we went with slightly cheaper cyan LEDs, and they're a little more towards white than I would ideally like for that particular kit, because I wanted it to be more representative of the colors of the Pride flag, but we just didn't have a lot of choices in that, sadly. So that's kind of what we were able to buy. But yeah, I do like that more cyan, almost turquoisey color. I agree. All right. Well, shoot, we made 2 things with the solder sesh, and we soldered. Boom, feeling good about that. If you have any more questions or anything, feel free to ask them now. I will pause a few seconds for the stream to catch up and for me to drink some water. And yeah. Oh, I know. I was going to see if we could really see much of anything under the microscope on these self-blinking guys. I don't think you can really. Wow. Well, we might be able to see some stuff here. Hang on. Trying to get a good angle on it. Okay. Let's see. It's not too bad. Let me see if I can make it even bigger. Zoom in and adjust the focus of the camera. Okay, that's a little too much. I think that's about as good as it gets. So yeah, pretty cool, huh? What the hell is going on here? I don't even know. There are some ICs essentially bonded to one of the sides of the LED, and there are basically like three. There are definitely three discrete LEDs in there, right? A red, a green, and a blue, and they all have they all have dyes that are, oh boy, it's really hard for me to see. And I wonder if I can look at a top view here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see the top view, but there's basically like there are two little black squares in there that you can see. There's like one that's on the right and one that's on the left. And that's the control circuitry. There are clear dyes in there as well, which are going to be the discrete LED dyes. They're a little bit harder to see, but they're kind of in the middle of those two black boxes. So yeah, just trying to see if in a different angle can kind of see. Not really, but yeah. And then you have just like a bunch of just these tiny little wire bond wires that are connecting everything and connecting those ICs to ground and to positive voltage as well. Pretty crazy, huh? Yeah, the size of those wires in that LED. Yep, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that those are wire bond wires, which you can look up like wire bond videos on YouTube. It's kind of crazy. It just kind of like machine basically like puts like a little pool of solder and like creates like a little wire in midair as it travels from the one point to the next point, and then just kind of like blobs it down on the other point. Yeah, snowflakes are available. They're totally available on the website and on Tindy. It's called Chilly Snow Cloud. It's one of our weather series, available singly and in the it's solder weather bundle. Oh, snowflakes are not available yet. Sorry. Clouds are available. Snowflakes are not available yet because we're hopefully trying to come up with a better solution than cutting and stripping the wires ourselves. But we have all of the parts except the wires figured out right now. So we have tentative pricing on it. I think that it's going to be around $15. And that's a lot of that is just due to the wire cost. But yeah, it depends. If we can buy them in bulk, pre-cut, pre-stripped for cheaper, then that price might be able to get down more towards 10. But yeah, it's looking like probably around 15 right now. So yeah. But yeah, we'll definitely be posting about it on Mastodon and Instagram when the snowflakes are available. Snowflake, cloud available, snowflake coming soon. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that is a wrap. Do you see what I did there? Oh, and I'm not even drinking beer on this solder sesh. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. Thanks for asking questions. Always good to hang out with people. And yeah, don't quite have a plan for next time yet, but we do have some awesome guests coming up that we've been scheduling. So we have a guest on December 22nd, Anurada Reddy, and she does really cool stuff with electronics and with yarn. And I think we will be crocheting a resistor pincushion, which I'm excited about. It's been a while since I've crocheted. So yeah, that'll be fun. And yes, and Jorvan Moss is going to join us next year too. So that's going to be fun too. And we're going to build a robot, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah. So that's still in the works. He's working on a cool robot kit right now, and yeah, I'll be excited about that. And we'll try to post some materials lists and stuff like that early as they are done, so that hopefully people who want to make something along with us can. So yeah. And yeah, we have lots of emails out to other awesome guests, and who are all going to say yes. You are all going to say yes and come on the stream and talk about all our awesome projects. So it's fun. We're excited about stuff coming up. Cool. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great week, and see you here next week. Awesome. Bye.